everyone, and welcome back to the GBC Youth channel. So, as I'm sure you are aware, it is currently December, woo, which is why I have my Christmas jumper on. And it is also, that means we are also in the season of Advent. Now, Advent is a time of hope and waiting for the arrival of Jesus. So this year, throughout the season of Advent, I have been given the best opportunity ever. This year, I am able to interview a character from the actual real life Nativity story. This week, I was fortunate enough to meet a guy called Dave, or his other name is Param. Take a look at this.
So here I am, and I am joined with one of the wise men who was there at Jesus' birth. Before we get into the interview, would you like to introduce yourself? You can tell us your name, your occupation, and what your favourite part of Christmas dinner is.
Sure, so it's great to be here, first of all. It's dark and cold, I'm in the middle of the desert, but it's all good. So my name is Pram. I'm a professional magi, and I do like sauteed Brussels sprouts with a little bit of olive oil and some croutons.
Ooh.
A little bit of cumin.
That is definitely, I wouldn't say the most popular part of a Christmas dinner.
But it's good. It's very good.
I'll have to try it. So, hiya Param. I want to interview you about the story of Jesus and how he came to be born, because you were there at the time. So my first question for you is, why did you go all the way to Bethlehem to see Jesus?
So in my role as a professional magi, I study the night sky, and I use my books that have been passed down from generation to generation. And as I was observing the sky one evening, I observed an anomaly, or a bright event. We would probably call it a star, and it hadn't been there before. So I looked in my books, and it said a new king has been born at that very moment.
Wow.
And so I thought, that is very strange. I will consult with other professional magi in order to ascertain what they think as well. So we decided, on the basis of the evidence, to travel a very long way to Bethlehem.
It is a very long way. How long is it, and how long did it take you?
Well, we didn't arrive in Bethlehem until 2 years after the anomaly occurred at first. So
Wow.
Because there was time to discuss and analyze, and then the journey is very arduous. You have to load up the camels, and camels can be quite grumpy.
Yeah,
and there's it's not a trivial undertaking.
Okay. See, in my time, if we want to go somewhere, we just hop in the car and you're there in a couple of hours, or on a plane and you're there in no time at all. It must have been such a long, tiring journey to be walking or riding a camel.
Fortunately, I have a very, very comfortable saddle.
That's all good then. That's all right. You've got the top end of the saddles.
Top end saddle manufacturers.
Great. So when you realised that the star meant that a king was born, what did you think when you realised it was in a stable or a cave?
So when we arrived 2 years after the birth, actually they were already in a house.
Oh.
So it wasn't until we heard Mary and Joseph's story that we realised that actually this King of Kings had been born in a manger, in a feeding trough, the usual parlance. We never expected it. We never thought, King of the universe, he'll be born in a manger, in a stable, somewhere in a provincial town, in a backwater somewhere. So we went to the palace in Jerusalem to start with, and made inquiries and conversations there. So yes, it wasn't what we thought it would be.
Did it make you doubt yourself? Did you ever think, oh, maybe we've got this wrong?
On such a long and arduous journey, I would be very surprised if people didn't doubt themselves and question themselves on why they were taking such a perilous route for for something, but we were so convinced by our studies and our seeking. We are seeking God, so we are seeking to draw closer to God, and this was a journey worth taking, as arduous as it was.
Interesting. So why did you bring a baby? Because even 2 years later, he was still a baby. Why did you bring him such a valuable gift?
That is a very good question. It's one I'm commonly asked. So myrrh is a very utility product. It can be used for anointing. It's used to make incense. It's used in many different ways, and it's a very precious perfume, and it's a preservative, and it's as I said, anointing. And kings should be anointed. So bring an anointing gift.
Okay, interesting. So although you weren't actually there, as we've discovered in this interview, you weren't actually there when Jesus was being born, but
Sure.
What is your favourite part of, or favourite memory of the Nativity story from the moment that they travelled? As I'm sure you've heard, they travelled a long way to get to Bethlehem. From that moment,
on an uncomfortable donkey, no less. An uncomfortable donkey. Who? Not as comfortable as my saddle on my camel.
I'm sure not. And what do you think? Do you think donkeys are better, or do you think camels are better?
Camels.
Okay.
The BMWs, to use your parlance, of the desert.
Okay, so I should invest in a camel rather than a donkey.
Yes.
Okay, I'll remember that next time I travel back in time. But what was your favourite part or memory of the Nativity story up until you saw Jesus and you left them?
I often ask myself the very same question. I love stories. Love stories. So to listen to Mary and Joseph, who had clearly been through a lot, to just sit in that small house in Bethlehem, listening to their events and just being peaceful. There was a sense of peace that fell over that house that I cannot explain to this day. And it's, yes, that's my most treasured memory of that event, of being in the presence of the Messiah with his earthly mother and his earthly stepdad, just listening to their story and the wonders that were beheld on that evening and in that morning. Yes, it wasn't easy for them.
No, for sure. Before we move on to the final question, I have one other question. In the song Away in a Manger, it says that the baby made no crying. Is that true?
How else would a baby communicate?
So was he quite a fussy baby?
He was a baby of good temperament, but it is one of those paradoxes that still vexes me as a professional magi, being in very nature God and very nature human, even that of a baby, and restricting yourself from an omnipotent, all-present God to being in a small, tiny human is yes, it's something that my mind still cannot fully comprehend.
Wow. Okay. So there we are. Thank you so much, Haya Param. I apologise for getting your name wrong. As you can imagine, we don't have names like that nowadays. So I'm used to the Johns and the Simons, not the Haya Params. But
to be honest, my friends just call me Dave.
Okay, I'll just call you Dave. So Dave, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to meet you. And I hope that everybody watching this interview has learned something new about the Nativity story.
You're very welcome. Shalom, my friend. Shalom.